I spent a lot of my career in the field, a whole lot. I was in a tactical unit, and there are a lot of physiological issues, a lot of physiological issues.
Welcome to Pull the Pin Already, a place where average veterans come to share their opinions on the world we live in. We can't guarantee you're going to like our opinions.
But we promise we're going to enjoy giving them to you.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Mike.
And I'm Fiona.
Woohoo! Let's pull the pin.
Yes.
All right. It's getting better and better, baby.
Awesome. Quality is improving.
Yes.
Just by the guest.
Welcome back, Fiona.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me back.
So what do you want to talk about today?
Laundry.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about.
Laundry. Dirty laundry.
Yes.
Dirty laundry, not just any laundry.
How about dirty laundry in combat?
Yes. Dirty laundry in combat.
I can't tell you much about it. Most of mine got stolen, so.
Oh. This sounds like a weird fetish story we're not really sure we want to listen to.
It would not. I'd put my bag in there, my laundry bag, and come back bereft of items I had submitted. Particular items, of course.
Yes. I have seen that a lot over there.
Really? Did you have a nice collection, Mike?
No, because most of the women were bigger than me.
It's not the size, Mike.
Woohoo!
Whoa. I think this is not the subject we're trying to talk about.
Okay. Women in combat.
This is totally what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about whether or not it is the size. That is absolutely relevant to this.
Yeah, we'll have to put a disclaimer on this one.
I mean my size. Jeez, guys.
Okay. All right. So obviously women are a big part of our subject, and combat is another side, right?
That's right.
Yes. Why don't we just put them together?
Yes, but in reverse. Women, combat women.
Combat women, yeah.
Combat women.
Combat women.
Should we combat women or women combat?
Come on, we were going good, Jim.
All right, my bad. All right. Sorry, I'll stay out of this one. You guys figure it out.
So as a woman, Fiona, and you've been to combat, of course. So what can you tell us about your experiences?
What can I tell you about my experiences?
Besides for the laundry being stolen.
Oh, well, I mean, is there anything else? Is there anything else important?
Besides men thinking you shouldn't have been there.
Actually, I really didn't get that. I really didn't. Yeah, I really didn't have a problem with that. I think the only thing that I experienced that made me feel girl soldier versus any other type of soldier was, when the guys, when a team comes back after, 6 months in the desert, they show up on a major post and they see a female for the first time in 6 months, and they
No, we don't know.
I remember one time I was on guard duty, and we had these huge towers. And so it was my turn to take one of the towers. And so I go up there, and, I'm manning my tower, and I'm looking over the village, and I'm protecting, and I'm doing my deal, and radio check. And so each tower calls in, and it's my turn. And I call in, and there's silence. I'm waiting for the next radio check, and there's silence. And I look, and there's like binoculars pointed at me.
Really?
Yeah. But I find it funny. I mean, ultimately, what was Afghanistan like for me? There were probably maybe a total of 50 females, and we had an hour to shower and clean, and the rest of the day, the shower tent was for the guys, because there was, 3 times as many.
Yeah.
It was local nationals thinking it's funny to, flirt with us or, but otherwise, my experience was different than a number of females in combat, and that, you know, I spent a lot of my career in the field, a whole lot. I was in a tactical unit, and there are a lot of physiological issues, when you're in the field, I'm not going to get graphic, but when you're in the field, there are times when it is in fact really unhygienic. And what are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to do?
Isn't that one of the Army things too? Like when they do noise, light, discipline, and all that stuff? Well, isn't smell part of that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess by day 5, we're all pretty rank regardless.
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
will
I
say
thought
that females, we tend to get a little bit more rank than the guys do.
I can imagine.
We really do. I think, you know, when it comes to females in combat, you know, there have been 6 females in U.S. Army history have earned the Silver Star, and I say absolutely kudos. You know, I'm a soldier. I don't call myself a female soldier. I am a soldier, and that is the way it is. I don't talk about the first female to do this. I say that is a person who is doing that. But we can't deny the fact that there's a new Army PT test, the Army Combat Fitness Test, and Army Times reports senators are noting that Army data shows a consistent 65% failure rate for women and a 10% failure rate for men. Combine that with the standard Army physical fitness test, where the 2-mile run for a female for max is 15:54 for the 17 to 23. That's not even passing for a male of the same age. So there is courage does not come in a particular size. It doesn't come with a particular level of strength. And I want to make that perfectly clear.
Right.
But, and I actually had this discussion with someone once, not too long ago, when the bullets are flying, I want to know the person who's dragging me off the ground is physically capable of doing so.
Right.
You know, a 45-pound ruck is really heavy. It's really, really heavy. And those are just facts. Those are not things that I can change. I can't change the fact that I'm not tall enough to complete some of the obstacles at the air assault course. I am 5 feet tall.
Right.
There have been times when I've actually had to have someone on an airplane pull down the anchor line cables so I could hook my universal static line snap hook because I was too small.
So what you're talking about is a standard, right? And that standard, regardless of gender, shouldn't matter. If you got a 4'9" male who can't reach it either, he shouldn't be doing it either. Yep. But the thing that I think people like to ignore is that there are differences between men and women that you can't ignore. You just can't ignore them.
No, you really can't. And I think, you know, just keeping within the physiological, the psychological is, you know, its own subject to talk about. We can't deny that the Q angle between my hips and my knees are, on average, it's a great deal different than yours. And so the impact of running, it physiologically affects me more negatively, according to data.
Well, I would imagine
that's just
I would imagine just the fact that your body was designed to push out other human beings, that you're not going to be designed like a man.
Exactly.
Doesn't have that need.
And it's not a shame thing. It's simply the sky is blue and the ground is solid under my feet right now. And I have a physiology that has nothing to do with my ideology. It has nothing to do with discrimination. It is simply what it is. Standards. Right. And I'm actually really excited about the idea that we have a standardized PT test.
Yeah, I think too many people focus on the other side. The physiology thing kind of gets pushed to the side as sexism, I guess. I don't know.
Which I hear that and it kind of makes me angry because I worked really hard to get really good PT scores. I worked really hard to be a good soldier, and denying the effort that I have to put in just to be average with many of my male compatriots, like, That's pretty much what that does. That shuts down my accomplishments. So females in combat, I mean, we've had, three, I think, females get the Silver Star in OAF, OIF. There are no front lines. Anywhere and everywhere can be a battle. We've had female snipers. We've had female medics going in the middle of gunfire, in the middle of the battle, grabbing people, you know, triaging, taking care. And again, this is not a statement to their inability in some sort of, you know, technological space. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
But in general, physiologically speaking, the evidence is clear that we're not physiologically for these requirements, we're not physiologically in the same space. And that's okay. I say that as someone who literally pushed as hard as I could on my PT test. Like, I was pumping out push-ups. I was running like a mofo. And I still say that. It's not a shame thing.
And the problem, I think, is that there are places where women's characteristics do bring a benefit.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, you can't just use that one benefit and then discard the rest, you know, that get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying, maybe women might make better medics. I don't know. Maybe they're good, you know, being calm in the fear of, you know, all the blood and whatever. Maybe they're good at that because they're used to, obviously, if they push things out of there, you know what I mean? They probably had some dealings with that. So, but the problem is you can't just say, oh, because they're good at that, we'll give them a rifle and let them do the rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Fiona, are you saying that with the differences, the physiological differences that you speak of, that shouldn't hinder someone or preclude someone from going to war?
It should preclude on a shall we say, anonymous basis. So it really does come down to standards, which are in place for a very specific reason. If I have known females that were, you know, incredibly strong, incredibly fast, incredibly capable. You know, and if you make the standard, you make the standard. But I think now we start kind of migrating into the other topic, which is the psychology of it.
So would you say, and this is, you know, just to bring some levity into it, you're a modern day G.I. Jane? One standard across the board. If you pass the standard, okay, then you're eligible. Let's say, since the topic is women in combat, you're eligible to go to war.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I can live with that. I can
even get on board with that. I mean, but that still doesn't dismiss the facts of what you talked about physiologically with, you know, certain issues that women deal with that men don't. I mean, those are still obstacles. Like, I've never been, you know, I've never worked in supply, but I've never seen, you know, those women things on the list of supplies, but they have to be now.
Mm-hmm. Well, they aren't. I mean, we had to get them by ourselves. You know, all of that is on us, the military.
But that's not fair.
Like, what are we talking about?
Hygiene products and things. When I got my issue, I actually my field issue for the first time in my military career, I actually got issued female type undergarments, which I'd never been issued before. I always had.
Okay. Right. Well, you see, that makes an interesting dynamic. Now we've got to increase the budget or add things to the, you know, so there is other implications. It's not that it can't be done. I'm not saying we can't do that to accommodate, but you're only accommodating for a small group of people because there aren't a whole lot of women going to combat.
Well, and there's, you know, you actually touch on a topic that has discussed before with some sailors that I knew. Females, for example, who get pregnant while they're underway or deployed to a combat zone. The male doesn't have to go, but the female does. Absolutely. It is a medical necessity that she is no longer in the combat zone and no longer on the ship. Not only does it cost, I think the average was like $250,000 just to get her off the ship on average, but then they have to replace her with somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think,
go ahead.
I would think that if that's a concession that the military wants to make, I think she should also be charged. and dismissed from the military.
Usually it is the case.
Well,
Okay.
now, hold up now. I was with you guys, but no, because like you said, now if she's pregnant, she has to go for medical reasons.
Right.
Right.
Now I was like, well, why does he get to stay? Because obviously he violated some what do they call it?
General orders.
General order. Thank you.
Right.
Right. He violated one also, but you know, I understand the medical issue with the female, but I was thinking more of the violation of general order, most likely number one, because it's so long,
Yes.
right?
It is,
And
yeah.
yeah, so then when you say you charge her, you should charge him as
Oh,
well.
I agree. No, I
Get him
agree.
out of there, yeah.
Yeah,
And
we were talking about
that's-
women in combat, but I agree.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, my experience has always been that it's pretty equal across the board. In fact, usually, I have heard anecdotally where it has been a little more on heavily weighed on the female, but my experience has been that the male actually tends to get a bit more, which I mean, I think that's entirely up to the command. But the rules are the rules. The only time they can't do anything is if the female does not give up the name of the male, which I have in fact seen.
Yeah, I've seen that also.
Right.
Yep.
So let's talk about the psychological side. The psycholo.
Here
I
we
hate those
go.
big words.
Da-da-da-da.
That's because,
Da-da-da-da-da.
to be honest with you, that's where my problem lies. I'm with you. If anyone can meet the standard, I don't care if you're man, woman, or a frog. I don't care. If you can meet the standard, by all means, do the job. Even though those other obstacles are an issue to me, but the psychological problem, and I'm not even going to pin it on the women. I'm going to say, in my experience in military, civilian, I don't care where I am, when a woman is around, men react differently. And that creates a problem. And it's not always harmful in the moment, but it ends up leading to something harmful.
Again, I've spent most of my career tactical. As short as it may have been, it was pretty much all tactical. And I think I obviously don't know what it's like when I'm not there. So I don't know what it's like when females aren't there. But I know my experience has been.
I can tell you, Fiona, they don't have binoculars looking at dudes in towers. They're not disregarding their tower to look over at another tower when a dude's in it.
Well,
What, Mike, you did that?
no, this is another one of those moments, Jim, where I disagree with you. But then when you said that about the binoculars, I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. It is a distraction.
It is. And I'm
Yeah.
only saying this because if I'm being 100% honest, I do these things. When there's no women around for so long, I'm a man, a woman comes, my attention goes to the woman. I have told people for years, I probably shouldn't say it on here, but if you want to rob a bank, you just put a half naked woman in the bank because even the women will look for a minute. It's a distraction regardless. And when you're on a mission so sensitive that one distraction might get the whole unit killed, it's really not advisable. And of course, there's other distractions. I'm not saying women are the only distraction. I'm just saying it's one that we don't, well, I don't even want to say we don't need. Yeah, that's tough to say.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So let me kind of playing on the other side. I'm proud of the fact that I'm a combat veteran. And I think that my service was beneficial. I think that I served with honor and I think I contributed. I think what I've always said is that there's a place for everyone when it comes to this sort of thing, whether it's in the military or not, whether it's forward or not, whether it's at the FOB or out in the middle of the sticks, whatever it might be. And I think there's a time and a place for even me in any of those positions. The question really becomes standardization versus, shall we say, unique mission requirements. So I have seen missions where without females, it wouldn't have gone off. And I don't just mean, ones where they had to speak to Afghan women or something where, they needed that female present. The female contributed in such a way that she as a person was a necessary contribution to that situation.
Now, was it necessary because she was a female or just a good soldier?
Mhm.
You know what,
Soldier?
Mike, I just started to think about this because we had another episode that us going to war are designed to do one thing. Why would that scenario she just brought up with women talking to Afghan women even be relevant? If we're there just to kill people, we don't need to talk to people.
It's another
Oh,
topic, Jim.
I know, but I just thought about that's a bullet on my list.
the humanitarian
Check.
mission.
Yeah,
I,
it's humanitarian. It's not war, buddy.
Oh, okay, all
Go
right.
ahead.
So we're
oh,
talking
it's
about women
war, but
women in non-combat combat.
I'll come back. I'll come back for that one because
Yeah,
I have a lot of
Humanitarian,
invested
I'm
emotion
all
there.
for it, but
yeah.
But I do want to say that I'm not saying that I don't think that women shouldn't be there. I'm saying that I think that it needs to be for the right reasons. And I mean that across the board. I think, we have selections. We have, the first week of airborne school for me back in the day was weed every single person out. It wasn't weed out Fiona. It wasn't weed out the females. It wasn't weed out the cadets. It was weed everybody out. And whoever remains deserves to be there. And, it's part of what made me proud of being a paratrooper,
Right.
So I think that particularly now with the way that warfare is fought, we're no longer, standing in formation, waiting for a commander to tell us to run forward with a cavalry, it's much more asymmetric. I think that there are unique missions, plentiful, a plethora of unique missions that we can serve in. The question is standardization, like right now, all positions are open to all females.
Except for the front line, meaning infantry.
Females are allowed in the infantry.
What?
In fact, female just graduated the Q course, Special Forces Q course.
No, okay, I don't look at them as the front line.
Yeah, but females are allowed in the infantry.
That's the other line.
They're allowed in the infantry in both the Marine Corps and the Army.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. That's good.
There
That's
are
good
no
to know.
positions that are closed to females.
see, I don't know. I just have a problem with it from, like I said, I've talked about it differently. It's not even about the capabilities. I don't know why women would take it personal that we don't want them on the front lines. I don't know why you would take that personal, because if you assume it's because we think you can't fight or do what men do, you could be completely wrong.
Well,
I value women. I don't want them on the front line.
yeah, we discussed similar topics
Yeah.
before, Jim. But let me ask you this, because I've heard this in conversation. Well, if we're a distraction, this is coming from women. If we're a distraction, isn't the problem men? Or
Yes.
isn't the problem the military because they're not,
Yeah.
training up to this war, training up on these missions? They're not including more women so men can get used to seeing women there.
No.
So
Well,
isn't that more of the problem?
I would caveat with saying that the military is going to create a thing, male, female, what have you, but it is a unit. And this unit has a particular psychological profile. And that particular psychological profile is designed to do particular things. There's the general, in the Army, the general profile is that we're all infantry. So once they've done that, then they refine us a little bit further into our MOS training. So I don't think, it's kind of like walking down Gruber on Fort Bragg, and I've got my airborne wings, and I'm walking down past a bunch of 82nd guys, and I'm in 18th Airborne Corps. They're going to look down on me. I know that. I already know that. Like it's going to, and sometimes it doesn't. I'm not saying they're all doing that, but the point is that there's an arrogance that is inherent and I think very necessary. I think that arrogance is in fact what really helps them stay alive when the bullets are flying, because it kind of helps them overcome. It gives them an easy way to access that I'm terrified, but I'm going to keep going.
And I think that's interesting, because that goes back to what I was thinking is when Mike said that, I agree, Mike. Yes, it is the men's problem, but you cannot dismiss the fact, just like we spoke about the crime on military bases. We're still human, and it is a male instinct to look at women, to desire that connection. That's a male thing. So you're talking about training people to undo what's in their nature. And you can do that to an extent, but you can't keep a man in that position forever.
You know,
Well, that's where training comes, Jim. I mean,
Sure.
like you can't just take someone and say, okay, now shoot this person. No, you have
But
to
we
train
don't,
them.
right, but
You
we
have to,
don't all sit in a foxhole 24 hours a day for every day. We don't. They have to give you downtime. They know that because you can't just sit and focused on one thing the whole time. They do try to do these things for you because they know that you can't do that as a human being.
I truly believe if, and now let's say, now, oh man, this is going to sound so infantile, if you will, but now we're used to, now we have Fiona on the show, so we kind of watch what we say, let's say, right? Because,
Mhm.
but once we get used to her being on the show as a female,
Mhm.
next thing you know, man, F that. F
Yep.
that.
Right.
Because we're just used to it. So
Mhm.
the thing is, what I was told was, you know, they believe that the men are the problem or the military is the problem because they're not having a lot more females included in the training. And I
Okay.
can see that. I can see
So
that.
I agree with you, Mike. I agree with you. Enculturation is a thing. And, you know, I see it. I'm in IT and, you know, it's a very male dominated. I've pretty much been
Yeah.
male dominated environments my entire life.
Hmm.
And it takes a little bit of time. And it's because there is, I truly believe there is a distinction in sort of the natural perception, if you will, between a female mind and a male mind. And um, I think that is we can overcome it. I think that I have been very, very comfortable in tactical environments. In fact, I get more comfortable, you know, especially when people start getting accustomed and we start building our communication styles and they're relaxing and whatnot. But where I struggle is that the military is not responsible and shouldn't be responsible for anything but creating us as weapons. That's what we do, one way or another, whether we are water support specialists or you know linguists or you know door kickers, whatever it is. We are a weapon of some kind, and that is ultimately the military's responsibility. And
Basic training.
But
exactly.
but
Yeah.
see, I want to before we get too far off the path, I want to address this from the other perspective, Mike, because you're saying basically all we got to do is introduce a whole bunch of women, make it normal, and everybody will accept it. But I
Yeah.
could tell you in my personal experience on deployments that most of the women in my units, let's say, were promiscuous, married or not, were very promiscuous, and that was the norm. So that became the setting and led to those scenarios that we've talked about where this guy says, well, she's over here dancing for these guys. Why can't I? And then next thing you know, we've got a whole case going on because somebody thought that that was the norm. So you got to be very careful about what you're talking about the norms are.
Well, and I think that kind of touches, you know, one of the things that you know, we each know is that you go to a unit, you're going to get one of two labels. You're promiscuous, or pardon my language, but you're a bitch. It's one of
Right.
the two.
So if you didn't say it, I was going to say it. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
there's other
I was
words.
like, let's just go for it.
She used the polite word for promiscuous, but
I
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
and then I followed it up with bitch. So I'm trying to be nice to the watching group, the
Yeah.
audience
Yep.
here. So you know, it's one of two things, and I think I can sit here and I can say, hey, that hurts my feelings. I think that's crappy. It is. Ultimately, it's stupid. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. But what I am failing to do is to adapt to an existing culture. There is an exist. Now, I'm not saying I should go out and, you know, be promiscuous or I should go out and do one or the other. What I'm saying is that there is a communication issue that, yes, there are total assholes that are just chauvinists. I remember I went to PLDC with one of them. He was just like, why are you doing this? It is the stupidest thing in the world. But for the vast majority of guys, my experience has been that they are the majority, and the majority kind of sets the culture. That's a natural, you know, flow of humanity.
Yeah.
The majority sets the culture, and we come in and we kind of naturally, just by being here, pull at the equilibrium. And then we say, well, I don't like the responses I'm getting, you know, and I'm not saying necessarily it's that they called me a bitch or they called me a hoe or whatever. It's I said a thing and I expected them to say, you know, well, that's great. And instead they said, called me an MFer and, you know, I'm not going to move out. You know, well, you've got to adapt to the culture because they're not actually treating you any different than they would treat anybody else. But you're interpreting it differently because you aren't that person and you're expecting people to treat you in a way that makes sense to you.
Mike, we've heard that some of our female guests.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this, Fiona, not Jim. And I hate to resort to movies because we know that's fictional or whatever, but G.I. Jane, I know you've seen it, right? The first time she walked into the mess hall and all the woo and all the whistles and everything, I think that's what you're referring to. You were injected into this culture. You have to expect that, even though it's wrong. You know,
even more so, I would say it's understanding and taking that. Like if she had turned around and just owned it and been like, I know y'all are just jealous. Guys would have totally reacted differently. There would have been so much more acceptance. And I'm not saying that you have to be, you know, them. What I'm saying is that there's an existing culture that is expecting communication in a particular way. And we come in and we don't understand it.
Well, I
totally stepped on you, Mike.
No. You're absolutely right. I agree.
Can we tie that to the physiological thing though? And like you said, so here are these men who feel like they've done this feat by doing all these things, and their perception has always been, well, women have a lower scale, they don't have to do it. So then you walk in and you're among them. And it's not that they want to say that you're less than them, but literally, if you look at the standards, you've achieved less than them, even though in your mind you've overworked and done way more than you ever would have imagined. But in their mind, they're like, you didn't do what I did and you're here too. I mean, there's going to be some resentment to that.
So speaking Fiona, the female combat vet, I'm actually going to claim it right now. And I'm going to say that having a different standard has probably been the most segregating thing in my military career. Honestly. And it's because I know right off the bat that even though I know that standard was set for biological reasons, it means that I did not do the thing. And it creates a lot of hardship and a lot of distinction between the groups. I can see Mike, he's like, oh God, I have a thing, I gotta
She knows. And this has nothing to do with a physical standard, but remember how she cut her hair? There's one standard, right? So as I look amongst the three of us, if there was a standard and we all wanted to join this group, Jim and I would be like, okay, I got about quarter inch of hair, no problem. Fiona over here, she has about 3 feet. You know what I mean?
It'd be really hard for her to grow this though.
That's true too.
We might have to shave ours, but that's what we did. We shaved ours. So.
Right. To go inside this group, right? To join this group. So they create a standard saying, oh, she's a female, so she doesn't have to. Is that okay?
So that gets into the, I think, actually the root of the question, which is, what is a soldier? What is a sailor? What is a Marine and what is an airman? You know, the AR 670-1, Army Regulation 670-1. Everyone on here knows what that is. That's our wear and dress of the uniform. It has very special requirements for females. For example, the male uniform, it says, here's your spacing. Here's how far it needs to be off seams, off you go. Whereas the females is based on the contours of the female body.
Right.
Additionally, and this may have changed, when I was in, we had to maintain a feminine appearance. And it wasn't that we had to look girly, it's that we couldn't have our heads shaved, for example. That was actually against regulation. So the question becomes, what do we really consider soldiers? Do we consider soldiers to be individuals? You know, is there a female soldier and a male soldier? Are you a person when you're out of duty? And ultimately, you think in the 50s, they didn't wear civilian clothes. They put their uniform on, they went out, and they wore their uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And Air 670-1 applies to us 24/7 when we're on active service. But does it really? Like, I wear my hair down, So if I say, hey, to join this group here, I have to cut my hair and it has to match yours, whether I want it to or not. That's a statement. It's a statement about what we expect each member of this group to be. And I think that's really the big question we're asking right now is go ahead.
Isn't there another angle too, that like the hair, like what is the purpose? Like, why do we cut our hair in the arm? I mean, I know they used to tell me for years that you don't have facial hair so you can have the proper seal on your protective mask. Well, if that's the case, then how come these guys get exemptions when they get the bumps? They get these bumps. So you want them to die? Like, I don't get it. So if there's not a purpose for it, if it's just conformity,
Yeah.
then maybe we can address that. But if there's an actual purpose, underlying purpose, why you don't have long hair, because it could come loose and get caught in trees. And, what I mean? Like, if there's a purpose for it, then I can get behind that.
Yeah, the
That's
purpose
the
was
question,
always
though.
hygiene, though. The purpose was always hygiene.
My long hair, the purpose of not having a shaved head is to maintain a feminine appearance. That is the purpose, which means that philosophically speaking, ideologically speaking, the Army is saying that part of AR 670-1 is to maintain a particular ideal, a visual standard of what we have deemed to be appropriate. And that's the purpose. And whether it matters or not is totally subjective. It really comes down to, I think it comes down to the overall ideal, philosophy. I mean, I remember, I can't remember which country it was, but I remember seeing one of our allied nations, and the females had long hair, but some had completely shaved heads. And the females, the 4 females, I think, that graduated Ranger School last year, the year before or something, they completely shaved their heads too. G.I. Jane style.
Right.
And it really changes the philosophy. It changes what we're saying about the individual. What is the real importance here? Me maintaining long-ish hair, even if it's pixie cut so it looks feminine, has an intention, and the intention is that we maintain a particular ideal. Me shaving my head and not having those standards and saying, hey, all of you have to look the same, means we don't care if you're male, female, a monkey, whatever. If you make the standards the way you're supposed to and you don't have these particular obstacles that we cannot overcome, good on you. So, right. I mean, I'm not necessarily against that. Personally, I like the ability to maintain the feminine aspect of myself.
And are you speaking about now, or even when you were combat?
Even when I was in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I was totally gung-ho, right. But I still, it's hard to explain to someone who's never had to give up their femininity. And there are times when I had to. When I've been out in the field for 5 days and I am smelling in a way that I literally had to throw away items of clothing.
Oh yeah.
There was just no getting over it.
Yeah, Mike does that now.
Oh yeah.
Hey, we might end up having to have a whole nother round of this stuff because we're pushing the limits here. So.
Wow.
I mean, it's good conversation.
No, it is though.
We may have to just have a whole nother episode of this. And
no, because we talked last time, Fiona. We talked about it. It was 3 guys talking about like women in combat, and it just didn't feel right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
So I'm really enjoying it because now I'm hearing it from the female perspective, and I like that.
Right. So let's close this up, but before we close this up, let's get a stance, Mike. Women in combat, yes or no?
I say yes.
How about you, Fiona?
Nice.
You can abstain.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain because I think it's circumstantial.
And I say because of the circumstances, I say no. I say
Wow, three step. Oh God.
I say
Okay.
no because of those circumstances. I have to. But anyways, let's move on to our favorite segment called Pull the Pin Ready, because sometimes these can even get long.
Here we go.
A place where we just vent on something we don't like in society or around us. And Mike, you got something?
Yes. Pick me. Pick me.
Go
Pick
ahead,
me.
Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
I really don't have anything.
Somebody got to pull the pin on that.
But no, I will pull the pin on this. You know, and it's about COVID and our society and how, you know, we're starting to open things up, close them back down, open things up. We're starting to trying to return to some semblance of normalcy, if you will, right? And we went to a restaurant. I'm not going to name it, but it was IHOP, and we went there, and I went to the restroom, and it said max capacity 1. It had 2 stalls and a separate urinal. So I'm like, really? Only one person can be in here at a time? You know, it's like, you know, if you're gonna open up a little bit, then I don't know. It's just why? You know, why? We should be able to determine the 6 feet rule.
Right.
You know, we've been doing this for quite a while now. So it's like, you know, I just want to pull the pin on it. Yo, you guys are getting a little bit too extreme on this stuff. So no, you know,
And
let
Mike-
us live a little bit.
Slippery slope.
I know.
Mike never likes to poop alone, so that's a real problem.
Well, I wouldn't want to poop
I
in
hate 'em.
IHOP.
I
So
hate them. That's my pull the pin, Jim.
All right, I'll go first. Give Fiona a chance to think of hers, although she probably already got it. I'm gonna go next. I don't know what they're called. Maybe one of you guys can help me out. Probably leaning toward Fiona because Mike probably not. You know those things. What are they called? Strainers. You know how you make the spaghetti and you put it in. You drain
yeah,
the
they're
water.
called strainers.
Yeah, strainers.
Hollanders, strainers.
Yeah, like have you ever tried to hand wash these things?
I literally just did that before we were on here.
Like
I just had spaghetti.
I'm sitting here like thinking to myself, this is designed for water to flow through. So if I try to wash it, where's the water going? It's flowing through. Like I literally flip it from side to side, just pushing the stuff to each side. I'm like, this is insane. Like, how do you
know
have
the
to-
water's for rincing, right?
Yeah, but I mean, your soap.
The soap can stay on there.
We're right. That's fine. But I soap it all I want. But then you still put it under the water to get the soap out. It goes through the strainer. Like, how do you get all that? It's almost like you have to go over every little corner of it. It's insane. Like insane. Like they
But
should have
worth it.
disposable strainers or something. I don't know.
Disposable strainers.
Disposable string. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
trademark.
I'm pulling
There
the
you
pin on strainers and hand washing strainers. All right, it's on you, Fiona.
Oh God.
Okay. So I kind of actually I did think of mine. I realized tonight as I sat down to do our episode, I happened across we were watching Mandalorian. I don't know if you know about this, but
Wait.
This is the way.
This is the way. The shock trooper, the female Gina something, she is some amount of people, enough that it's made its rounds across social media, have demanded her removal from the show because she stated her opinion on COVID and a couple other things. So they're talking about
in real life.
real life.
Oh,
removing
okay.
her from the
Cancel
show.
culture.
Cancel
There
culture.
it is.
And it occurred to me, here I am, like, oh my gosh, this could actually hit home. Like coming on and just speaking my mind and what I think and just having this conversation could actually impact my ability to feed my kids.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
That-
said it.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, it made me so angry. So angry. So I'm pulling the pin on cancel culture. I
I'm
am
glad you
so
said
tired.
that, Fiona. We have some friends in our inner circle who feel that none of this stuff will come to them because it's not a big deal. But ultimately, it will be on your porch or in your
That's
backyard
right.
at some point. So stop pretending it doesn't exist. I'm glad
Yeah.
you said that.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
this is Speak your mind, everybody. Say what you're going to say, because as long as we continue to open our mouths, they can't get us all.
And
That's right.
stop being a digital Karen.
That's right. For real.
Grow up. Grow up.
I'd like to see Karen's manager.
Yeah.
Yes. It's probably Karen.
It's probably the super
Yeah.
Karen.
Super Karen, yeah.
We can't assume it's a man because, that'd be sexist.
That's
Anyways,
right. Well, yeah.
that is all the time we have for this episode. We hope you enjoyed what we had to say. We hope you come back for the next one. Until then, Godspeed.
And pull the pin.
Thanks for joining us here at Pull the Pin Already. We hope you had as much fun as we did. If you like what we do, go ahead and hit that like button and share this video with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes. But most importantly, leave a comment below. Let us know if you agree or disagree with our opinions. Hope to see you here next time on Pull the Pin Already.